There is currently a lot going on with Starfield, and most of it is a huge disaster. And it shows that Bethesda didn't just make a slip up and some mistakes with Starfield. No, they just decided to double down on bad decisions that I think are a big sign that the BGS we once knew and loved is disappearing. At the same time, for reasons I just can't understand, people are acting like Starfield is a topic of conversation in all of the wrong ways, especially gaming sites. And it bothers me enough that I had to make a video about it. And yes, I did have to reinstall Starfield and play it again to get footage, which is, in my opinion, the ultimate sacrifice. Bethesda has decided that the best response to people's criticism is to attack the people. That's right, let's tell people who think our game isn't good that they're wrong because the game is good. That's a sign of a healthy company with good practices. Now, I already said everything I had to say about the game in my hour-long review or so, and I have pointed out that most of its flaws are just part of the game's design and they can't be patched out. And I was very happy with the reception to that video because many people understood it to be what I wanted it to be. Helpful criticism that breaks down why the game isn't as good as some of us want it to be. And some of that same helpful criticism has been given to Bethesda in the form of Steam reviews. These reviews come from people who have actually put meaningful time in the game. They don't play it for 1 hour and then refund it just to trash it. They've put in 40, 50, 100 hours into the game and then have come back to offer their thoughts and say why they don't like it. And some of them are even quite in-depth with paragraphs upon paragraphs. And you would think that Bethesda, as we probably all want them to, is listening to these reviews and trying their best to improve, looking at all of the problems that the game has and whatever can be fixed through patches, which is not a lot, we'll get into that in a moment, they would be trying to fix. But no, they have been actively, recently, responding to Steam reviews with canned developer responses that basically boil down to, no, you're wrong for not liking our game. This user review from somebody with 75 hours says, I played for 75 hours because I needed the dopamine fix. Looking back at it, it's a boring story in a boring world. Also, I cannot get over the one mission I thought would be awesome. Finding a ship launched from Earth 200 years earlier with the offspring of the original crew finally finding humanity, and they have some computers with the same operating system on their ship as the rest of the universe. Why? This is a great review. And Bethesda has answered with, Hi, we appreciate you taking the time to provide your review and sorry to hear that you did not enjoy your time in Starfield. If you feel that things are getting boring, there is so much more to do than just the main mission. There are many side missions where you can learn more about the people and story of Starfield. You can take time to explore various planets for resources and items, break the law by smuggling and selling contraband, build your own outposts and starships, and customize them to your enjoyment. There are many things to do, and you can visit our Discord for further ideas. And it just keeps going on like this and talks about like selling points of try creating different characters or explore New Game Plus because there are so many layers of the Starfield because it's such a good game, man. This behavior is appalling. It's exactly what Bethesda should not do. They should be taking this criticism to heart. Sure, this specific review isn't that detailed, but look at some of these other reviews. People have left paragraphs upon paragraphs breaking down the things that they didn't like about Starfield. This review really caught my eye. I never in my life thought that I would write a negative review for a BGS game. The magic of BGS games is that it makes you feel big in a big world. This game makes you feel small in a small world that is pretending to be big. The magic feeling is just off. And really, this review talks about my main complaint with Starfield, which is that the BGS game loop, the exploration, the surprise, and the motivation to do that are all gone because of how the game is. But Bethesda thought that the response was to say, some of Starfield's planets are meant to be empty by design, but that's not boring. When the astronauts went to the moon, there was nothing there. They certainly weren't bored. I can't with this. This is some of the absolute worst behavior I have ever seen from any developer. This is the combined smell of desperation, to the point of somebody saying, I think your game is boring and badly done, and you saying, it's not boring, are you crazy? It's so much fun. Not to mention that maybe the astronauts didn't find it boring because they were on the actual moon, and this is a video game that you pay for to be entertained with, and if people find something boring, it might be because it actually is. This to me is a sign of a slow fall from grace that is now turning ugly here at the very bottom, and proves my point from my original video. Bethesda doesn't understand what their fans want. Starfield, despite receiving numerous updates, is still fundamentally flawed. Yeah, they've patched things up, still not at the speed required, and the game was not ready for launch in my opinion. I mean, sure, now I have native DLSS 3 support, so the game doesn't chug on a 4090, but that's not enough. But it's still the shell of an improved BGS game, with all of the things that people truly want completely butchered. If you told me that BGS were trying to break into a new direction and make something different, more traditional, like Mass Effect or something, I could understand how this game is just misunderstood. But it's not. It walks like a BGS game, it talks like a BGS game, but doesn't have what matters in a BGS game. It's a husk of a game that people don't recognize, and that's why it has mixed reviews on Steam. And Bethesda's response of not owning up to its design failures, and instead telling fans that they're wrong, is the worst spot to be in. To summarize, what is wrong with this game at its core is that instead of it being a big world for you to explore and roleplay in filled with surprises, exploration, and decisions that have impact on the world, it's a game where you are immediately presented with a series of hub locations for quests, sent out to do linear storylines, and any chance for expression and discovering things off the mainline path have been severely limited compared to other games by the same studio. For as much as writing and context have been improved, with factions not making you their supreme leader, or the world being better at recognizing who you are, there are no big decisions to be made with role-playing, which is especially apparent when being evil is heavily discouraged, since all your companions will make a big stink about any evil decision, as if they never considered the possibility someone would want to be evil. It's all half-baked in the worst ways, and if you want a more in-depth view, my original video still stands despite the updates, which have patched a couple of things that I criticized, but certainly not the most important things, since those can't be patched. The modding community continues to do great work, but a game shouldn't need mods to be enjoyable. Previous BGS games were like a really solid vanilla cake that came with a bag of extra goodies to place on it, and even beyond that, you could mod them, right? You could add frostings and toppings, maybe put some filling in, and you could have a coffee on the side. Some mods would even change it from a vanilla cake to a chocolate cake or different flavors. But the vanilla cake that you got was still delicious and well made if you wanted to enjoy it as is, even if it wasn't that special. You had all of this freedom to eat the cake how you wanted and change it even without resorting to mods. Starfield is like a big bag of flour and some eggs thrown at you onto the kitchen counter, and just in case, it comes with a slice of chocolate, pecan, raisin, and oats cake as a demo of what it could be, and it turns out that everyone hates at least one of those ingredients. I truly have zero tolerance for behavior like this from developers, receiving valid criticism from people who have truly put time into their games, who have taken the time to express their complaints, and they receive official, canned responses from the developer. So that means they stand by these responses, telling them that they are not valid. It really proves that unless we see a complete acknowledgement of these issues from the studio, BGS is dead, or at least for me it is, and I have lost all hope for Elder Scrolls 6. There's just no hope for anything from them. Bethesda can still be great because they have other studios that are fantastic. Arcane with Dishonored 3, and id with the new Doom. They will probably be really, really good games whenever they come out. But the actual Bethesda Game Studios developer is lost. The other side of this coin is that as much as a lot of fans, including myself, have taken the time to deconstruct and really try to pinpoint the issues with the game, a lot of the online discourse surrounding it is just toxic. And I'm not talking only about fanboys, that's normal, but from gaming outlets and so-called journalists. Now let me be clear. I don't think that these journalists are bad people. I never go out of my way to accuse people and expect the worst of them. I practice what I preach. And I never just outright generalize and say stuff like, all gaming outlets suck or something like that. They all vary, and many have better and worse writers, editors, directors, and overall content philosophies. And I understand that at the end of the day, they bow down to the almighty dollar. But outlets haven't been putting out compelling think pieces, or done any digging with insiders or developers to confirm what went wrong here or what Bethesda's real internal reaction to the situation is. Instead, they've resorted to constantly talking about Starfield as a failure, and they cite player numbers dwindling as the sign of that failure. A single-player game being measured by the live service barometer with only the Steam statistics to back it up. It's misleading, and it doesn't address any of the real problems. It's simply done for clicks. And for all we really know, a ton of people are playing through Starfield or hopping back in every day, and look, more power to them. But a lot of this discourse just isn't interesting, factual, or helpful to anyone. There are so many useful things to say about Starfield, from the game itself, to fans' reactions, to even chronicling what people do like about it. But instead, they fall back on obvious fanboy baiting clickbait. And I get it. Go ahead. But at least put some effort into the actual meaningful stuff as well. Just like the fanboys who constantly praise it or continue to compare it and talk about its greatness, overselling with fancy words how a meaningless interaction in a copy-pasted location filled them with wonder and surprise and emergent gameplay 80 hours in, instead of taking a stance in their community where they call out that it was cool for 10 hours, but actually their footage and embellished words are just lies, since at hour 80, this was the 26th time they cleared this exact same dungeon, but this time the planet was tropical instead of ice. Give me a break, guys. You could be adding constructive criticism that helps send a clear message that we expect more and better, and you could do that without fanboy baiting and stoking the flames, but instead you've all decided to toe some fictional company line of allegiance to plastic boxes. The only part here that matters to everyone is that Bethesda gets off their limp high horse and changes things around, either for Starfield down the line or for us to get a fantastic return to form and much needed evolution with Elder Scrolls 6. We all win when we get good games to play, and blindly praising games with glaring fundamental flaws doesn't accomplish that. You can like the game, enjoy it, even love it, but stop acting like it's Todd's gift to the people or something. Overall, the behavior we're seeing coming out of BGS is appalling and insulting to their fanbase, and worries me greatly about their future. For the sake of the studio and the games we love, it needs to be called out and rejected. I'm doing my part. I hope other level-headed individuals do the same, and things can then change for the better. But at the end of the day, my hope is waning. So remember, call out all of their bullshit. Don't let them use these horrible responses. Don't let them cover up their mistakes. Face them head on, not with toxicity, but with actual criticism that forces them and others to react to just how insulting the product that they've put out is, and how their response is doubly insulting. If you think this video was valuable, remember to hit the like button so it reaches more people. And if you want more of what I do on YouTube, hit subscribe and consider turning on notifications. My promise to you is that each video I make has something worthwhile for you to hear. I've been Mugthief, and I have to get back to making other videos. So I can see you again very soon.